Is everybody ready to stand up and do an interpretive dance or sing a little bit? Okay, no, that's not what we're going to do. So I'm Steve Sally, as Taz introduced. First, I want to thank you very much and thank Iris, who worked so hard to put this event together, from First Light Cloud Exchange. And it's just a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to get the opportunity to talk about organizational change in the context of some of the biggest technology revolution of our time, or the biggest of our time. So I'm really excited to be here with you tonight. So we're going to talk about readiness for change. So this is an approach that we take with all kinds of change, whether it's a new strategy, new technology like AI, a merger, new leadership in an organization. But we're going to apply it here tonight to this context of artificial intelligence and all of the technologies that go with it. So first question, has anybody attended AI Week events this week? If you have, raise your hand. Okay, what did anybody name something that they went to? Okay.
So,
yeah.
Agentic AI was building a series of agents to to help people connect with others that want to find what dining is.
Okay. Right. So like a sophisticated technology to help people achieve a simple a goal, right?
I thought it was funny because it was basically social media meets AI.
Okay. Yeah. Any other examples that people went to this week for AI Week? Yes.
Cybersecurity and AI education, how to deploy AI strategies and maintain security in your business.
Great. Okay. So the great thing about this is, you had all of these different events that you could attend. The purpose of tonight is to pause and think and reflect and to give yourselves time and space to really absorb what you've learned and think about that last piece, that leadership piece and that culture piece that Taz was talking about, and how that fits with the more specific technology and structural sides of AI and the security pieces and all of the other changes that go with it. So this is really a chance to pause. We're used to moving so quickly, and we need time like this, time to reflect, to give us to be able to absorb what we've learned and to be intentional and deliberate about what we're trying to change. Right. So this is really a very different conversation about AI than most of the ones that you're likely to attend, which is good because I couldn't tell you how to, put agentic AI into a fine dining experience. So that I would be very bad at that. But I can tell you how to help organizations to be ready for change and navigate change. That I'm very good at. So I want to give you space to unpack assumptions around terminology, to unpack some of the thinking around usage, think about what AI is, how it gets used, how people can be ready for it, and how we can work for it. And the process of doing this tonight, I just want to say, think about what we're doing tonight and think about how you can bring this back to your organizations and to your clients and their organizations. Okay. So, I just want to think. So we think about the goals of change, right? Really, really simple. Change has a beginning and an end. We usually start with the end of change. We're trying to implement something. We're trying to implement a new tech, or we want two organizations to come together. We think about the end, and typically we start with change from the middle. We often start with, I've got this new thing and we're going to bring it in, and we're just going to bring it in. We're just going to bring this new app in, or we're going to launch Salesforce here. We're going to merge these two hospitals together. But we don't typically start from the beginning. So when we think about our goals of change, we think about the end, right? So we have, in the case of tech, we've got a working product. Everybody's satisfied. We've got client costs are down. Clients are saving money. People are making money. Policies are in place. Risks are mitigated. You're selling more tech. Your clients are making more money. Everybody's happy, right? That's the desired goal. That's where you want to get to. But in order to get there, you got to start with them. And you have a whole range of, you got this guy who's incredibly nervous. You've got this woman who really isn't sure what's going. She's worried that the robots are coming. This guy has no idea what he's thinking. And then she's really happy because she really likes this new technology. She's really excited about it, and she's already using AI in her day to day. Maybe it's, against company policy, but she's using it every day. Right? So you have a real mix of people who have different levels of feeling and different levels of understanding how they feel. And when you have high levels of, you have high levels of anxiety, and high levels of fear, what happens is that implementation doesn't happen. Right? So the great goal of, lots of money and happy customers and well integrated tech doesn't happen. And because there are a lot of assumptions, there are a lot of anxieties and reactions about tech, and we're worried, like, are the robots coming? Are we going to lose our jobs? Am I not going to be able to control what I do? There's a lot of feeling out there about how AI is going to impact the workplace every day, right? And these are primal feelings. I'm using primal language to talk about them because that's really where it lives, right? And what happens is it gets stopped. So how are we going to get these people to the finish line? Because that's what we want to do. Because it is not going to happen, and we know the statistics, it is not going to happen if we can't get them to a place of comfort. So, and by the way, excuse me, the reactions that they're having, they're important information. These people aren't wrong for feeling the things that they're feeling. They are expressing what's going on in the culture of their organization and the ways that their organization is functioning and not functioning. So what they're telling you is valuable information that you want to listen to, not because it's right, but because it's telling you something about what's happening in the organization. So, okay. So we have this great model called Readiness for Change, which helps people to move, as Viktor Frankl said, from reaction to response, to breathe, to think about, to be in a place of response, so that, because as we know, a reaction and a response, these aren't just moments in time. These are pathways. So you have a choice when you get to this place of we have new tech to implement. You can react and go down the pathway of anxiety and resistance, or you have the choice to respond and engage with it in a way that is where you are being present and you are being intentional and engaged and communicative about it. So we want to really work from this place of response, and that's how we ended up developing this model. So, okay, so we know that change is constant and ubiquitous. I don't have to tell you that. And it's happening not just in the implementation of AI, but in every aspect of our lives, right? From, strategy rollouts to mergers and acquisitions to sustainability initiatives to legislative and political volatility that's happening not just in the United States, but all over the world. These are happening increasingly fast, and they're increasingly complex, and they're coming whether you like them or not. So when people are afraid, impending change can get stuck because of resistance, because people are afraid to move fast enough, that things are moving too fast, they're being implemented too quickly, and people can't catch up to the change. There isn't clarity on what is changing. There's not alignment of leadership or teams around the motivation for change. And when we're not prepared for change, change fails. And we know the statistics on this, that change implementations, whether it's, strategies fail at about 70%, mergers and acquisitions fail 70 to 90%, tech innovations fail 60 to 70%. The numbers are, of course, all over the place. So if we're not ready for change, we can't implement a strategy. We can't adopt new technology. We can't work through a merger, and we can't be nimble with new leadership. And I want everybody to really think for a moment about where we typically start the conversation about the technology solutions that we have, which are great. There is nothing wrong with them. this conversation isn't about the tech is good or bad. Like I was talking with our content creator before, who was asking, questions about, is this, you said it much better than I did, but like, is it good or bad? That isn't the point. The point is, are we engaging with one another in the necessary conversations to be prepared for it, so that we can have we can have a real strategy and a real partnership in moving forward. So, so the tech we're talking, the change, of course, we're talking today is about AI, right? So, these conversations are happening without an awareness of readiness for change. Like I said, we're starting from the middle of the conversation, and just notice that. Notice and what it would be like to back up a little bit and start to ask some of the questions about whether this is the right set of tools. If it's the right set of tools, how do we engage people and how do we get it implemented? So we know AI is exploding. We know there's a broad range of adoption, both at the enterprise and workforce levels, and there are strong reactions to it. Okay. So I'm not going to bore you with these statistics. Just to say, one is that we had a market size in 2024 of $280 billion, and market projection is $3.5 trillion in 2033. So there's obviously tremendous growth. It's growing faster than the PC or the internet, right? So these are statistics very well. This is just for me to tell you, like, I know some of these things too. AI adoption at the enterprise and workforce level. There's been obviously a jump in adoption. 83% of AI, 83% of organizations have AI in their strategies, but they don't know necessarily what that means. Right? Most organizations don't. So most organizations don't have a plan for adoption. 78% have struggled to adopt AI tools that they've brought in to their organizations, and their issues around data quality and regulatory. There are concerns about regulatory focus and government and talent and skill inadequacy. So that's at the enterprise level. And then, of course, on the people side, people are excited, but they're also fearful. So there are fewer jobs. They're worried about their skills, about weakening skills, about control issues, general anxiety. So without a clear process for addressing these, people go increasingly to anxiety, and anxiety is the greatest risk of resistance and stopping processes. Right. So we want to help you before you jump into AI. We want to help you get ready for it. So I left on your chairs a little booklet, a little workbook, because we love homework. So this is our readiness for change model, and the workbook is really just a tool for you to play along, right? As I'm going here. So if you want to write down some notes as I'm talking, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. But just for you to have it as we're going. So this is our readiness for change model, and it's built on the 17 years of this business and the numerous years of working in this space before that. I guess a total of more than like 25 years of doing this. So we got 6 steps, right? So the first one is I'm going to use an example to do this, right? So we worked with a hospital that was implementing Salesforce, and it was failing. And it was failing because the hospital had just been acquired. The acquiring hospital decided, we're going to put Salesforce in here. And they shoved it down the throats of the HR and talent departments. There were lots of challenges that made it not succeed, right? So there was a loss of autonomy, there was a loss of jobs, a loss of control. So there were issues around timeline, there were issues around training, around integration, around expectations and anger, and around duplicate systems. So what they didn't do was, number one, they didn't define what was changing, right? So they didn't come in and say, okay, what are we doing? And just at the broadest level, when we talk about AI, and you are all more versed in AI than most, everybody has a different definition. And certainly in organizations, your lay people who are not as tech savvy have a lot of different definitions of what AI is. So it's important that we are defining what we're talking about. We really have to understand what we're talking about. So what is changing? The second piece is, are the goals of the initiative? So in this case, Salesforce, was Salesforce the right tool for this organization, given its goals, given its strategic goals? And how do we work together to be accountable for changes like implementation of Salesforce? Are we a punitive culture that makes people wrong and bad if they're struggling with a change? Or are we a culture that works together to implement change? The third piece is, what's your current level of readiness? What is it that you know? What is it that you know right now? And I'll go into more detail about that. But it's really like, for this hospital, what were they ready for in terms of implementing Salesforce? And then the next piece is, if they were really ready for that Salesforce implementation, what would that look like? What would they need to have in place for them to be truly ready for that change? And then to think about, okay, what are the commitments and needs that I have? What can I commit to? I'm going to work really hard. What do I need? I need a reasonable timeline. So those are just a couple examples. And then working together with leadership in a shared, present, accountable way where everybody owns the success of this. There are no victims and there are no perpetrators. We all own this together to move it forward. So that's the idea. So I'm going to invite you, if you want to go into your workbooks, if you go to page 4, we can start to think about, if you have any initiative that you want to think about, the first piece here is, again, looking at what is changing. What do we have that is changing in our organization? And what's the AI that we're talking about? How does it actually work? How does it impact our organization? Do we have the same understanding of it? And you could say the same thing for any other kind of change. What is the merger or acquisition we're talking about? Do we have the same understanding for it, right? So what is it that's changing here? That's our first question, because we want to make sure we're speaking the same language. And in so many ways in life, and particularly with the way media functions these days, with the way social media functions, with the way we shorthand so many things, we talk past one another at so many levels on so many subjects with shorthand that we actually don't necessarily agree on what we are talking about. So this is just a great example of that. AI is a great example of that. What is it that we are talking about? The next piece here is, how does the change align with the goals of this organization? Not all new tech is great tech just because it's new. Not all mergers are the right thing. Becoming a bigger corporation isn't great just because you're bigger. Sometimes you really have to think about what your goals are for your organization and be very candid about those. And be able to talk with your people about what those goals are. I talked before about tech projects often coming into the middle, right? They start in the middle of, we're going to bring this in, but we're not having these upfront conversations about what is it that we're trying to achieve as an organization, and bringing in the right tools for it, so that our people recognize that what's coming in actually fits the bigger picture. We're not just bringing something in because it's shiny. We're bringing something in because it fits our strategy. So that's the question around, how does change align with goals? And then critically here, I talk about accountability because, particularly in times of change, there's a book we refer to a lot called the Oz Principle. And they talk about above the line accountability and below the line accountability. And every human does both, right? We all have, so above the line accountability is, I own responsibility for this change. I'm going to work on this change. I'm going to work with other people on this change. We're going to make this change come together. Below the line accountability is, I'm right, they're wrong. I'm the victim. They're so bad. Nobody knows how to do things around here the way I do. It's all of the blamey stuff that we go to. It's the frustration that we go to. It's the lack of collaboration that we go to. And we all do it. It's human. but being able to move to a place of above the line accountability where we can work together to solve our problems. So having clarity on what kind of accountability you want is an essential part of the foundation for doing this work. And this is something you need to keep in mind throughout this process. Checking in with your goal alignment is an essential piece of this. Okay, so the next piece. So this is your current readiness. This is the question here, and this is on page 6. So this is really thinking about your current readiness, and I would just encourage you to think about, a current a use case that whether it's a product that your company provides or one that you're considering bringing into your organization, to think about what are you ready for with this. And there are 5 main categories here. So the first one is around understanding, and there are 2 pieces to this. So the first one is functional understanding. So the goal is to understand the components involved in the bigger and the bigger landscape and what it does. So functionally, what is the thing that's changing, right? Understanding it functionally. What is the tool? How does it work? That kind of thing. Do you understand it right now? What's your level of understanding? Second piece is your level of understanding at a personal level. So what do you understand in terms of how you feel about this? What story are you telling yourself? What's your comfort level? So this is your understanding at a personal level. The next piece is capabilities. It's understanding what's the current readiness for change in terms of the skills we have as the skills that I have as an organization or as a person, or our organization has. What are the skills that we have right now to engage this change, to bring this new tech tool into our organization? What are the structures that we have to support it? So do we have the right technical infrastructure, human capital infrastructure, workforce, organizational governance, risk management tools, etc.? What structural tools do we have in place? And the next piece is around alignment. So this is really looking at your alignment as a team. Are we ready for this change in terms of how our team works together? In terms of our alignment with one another, in terms of shared understandings and roles and responsibilities, and skills and training, are we aligned as a team in terms of being ready for this change? And the next piece is around endorsement. Do we have the support of leadership? Is there vision and strategic alignment here? Is there technical credibility? Are there talent and skill supports from leadership in terms of this change? And the last piece is, are you excited about it? Where are you right now in terms of your level of excitement for this new tech, right? So check in on where you are in terms of being ready for this change, as the first step to being able to get ready for this change. So the next piece, and this will be you'll look on page 7. So the next piece begins with this idea of imagining your future. So, and this is the case for any kind of change. When you want to think about making a change, you want to unbuckle yourselves from your current thinking, and you want to give yourself space to think about, in an ideal world, what if, right? In an ideal world, and you can think about this in terms of anything about, your team. If my team were working together optimally, what would that look like? If our organization was really firing on all cylinders, what would that look like? In this case, if we're really ready for this new technology or this new set of tools, what would that look like? So that's really our question. That's the basis of our question. So using that, we're going back to the same set of questions, and we're asking ourselves, if I really understood everything I needed to know about this new tech, what would I understand? If I really, where would I be at a personal level about it? If we had the capabilities we needed to have in order to implement this technology, what would they be? What skills would we have? What structures would we have? If we were aligned as teams and we were really ready for this new tech, what would that look like? How would we be communicating with each other? How would we be partnering or sharing information? If we had the endorsement and support of our leadership, what would that look like? And if we were really excited, what would that look like? So if I go back to my example with Salesforce, what happened with this hospital is that they realized that they were so lacking in leadership support and alignment from department to department in making this change, that when they started to look at what the ideal state looked like, they realized all of the things that needed to happen in terms of creating new agreements across departments and asking for support from leadership in a different way, having a different set of capabilities in the sense of we actually need a different set of rollout times, and we need to eliminate duplicative technologies or technologies that don't speak to each other properly, and acknowledge those are here and we have to actually acknowledge those and work with those. So it's designing that ready state helps you to see that delta, which is important. And that gets you to this next piece, which is being able to look at commitments and needs. So the idea of commitments and needs is, okay, if we have this ideal state, then how are we going to get there? What can you commit to get to that ideal state? What do you need to get to that ideal state? And some of it's pretty primal and human. Some of it's like, well, I need, patience from my boss. I need to it's important for me to commit to being patient with the process, to get out of my comfort zone and ask the stupid questions, to respect other people, to help people, to be okay with my discomfort. These are some really human aspects of this that you might not think about as you're trying to implement new technology, but these are real pieces that have an impact on your ability to successfully achieve that implementation. And then in terms of what you need to succeed, this is just a set of things that you need to bring to your leadership and to be able to say, okay, I need people to be lenient with my mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes in this change, in this new tech, because that happens. That's real. I need support from my boss. If I get past the anxious fear of the robots are coming for my job, but I realize, I might not have the same job. To know that I'm going to land somewhere, right? So, and it might be different, but to know I'm going to be okay, and for my organization to support. So these are some of the things, and creating awareness around this understanding means that you can then bring it to a conversation, and that's really the last piece. This alignment of vision for action. This is that last piece of the model, because what it's saying is, okay, now that I have this idea of like what great looks like, and of course we're not going to reach every aspect of what great looks like. We know that. But now that I know what great looks like, and I have some clarity on what I can commit to and what I need in order to start to get there, then I can have a conversation with my colleagues, with my fellow departments, with my leadership, to be able to say, or with my staff, to be able to say, these are things that we're talking about putting in place to make sure that we have the supports to make this change work. And that is what you need in order to be ready for change. These are and that getting to, a set of actions and metrics so you can actually start to move toward that. So that's what we need in terms of being able to be ready for change. So that's how our model works. That's how it works in practice with, it's how you're saying different kinds of organizations across a lot of different industries, and on a range of different kinds of challenges. So just want to, turn it back to all of you to ask you what's on your mind, what's coming to mind from what I've just shared. Yes.
My challenge is actually time. I feel right now when you try to adapt something with this AI, etc., it took a lot of time. I feel sometimes no. So for me, I have huge level of curiosity about something to change. But it's feel like right now some addiction that you're starting to try, and this is trying becoming I don't know. Usually, someone need to control your time because it can totally to take you almost like a gambling. Does someone have the same issue when they try something, or is it prefer not to try?
So trying a new technology?
Yeah, I say this, trying new technology, because right now it's becoming more and more even user friendly for everyone. And It took a lot of time, and sometimes I feel that your productivity, at least for this stage, going down because in reality, it's they still failed. They
Sure.
don't give you like right results what you want, and you spend more time. So question to all: like, does someone have the same one?
Right, and I think that comes back to that initial question, which is what's the goal? What is it you're trying to accomplish, and is the tool a helpful tool to get there?
My goal, like remove some routine work
Yeah.
from my schedule. So like, don't think about something.
Yep.
It could be in emails. It could be like in some my Excel sheets, in other stuff. So right now, actually, tools exist to help you with this. But when you start to do this, first you need to build them in some way they work for you.
Sure.
And then this is building, take a lot of time, and the result for right now, it's not like so.
Yeah, that's a big challenge. That's a very big challenge. Other examples? Yes.
So mine is a challenge in that I'm in the public school. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm in. I use my teacher voice. I'm in the public school space and education space, and both in my private company and my day job. And my concern is how people use it. So people, meaning anyone in education, how they use it with the kids, how the kids use it. I think there's a lot of information lacking, and there's a lot of pressure on us to be progressive, right? Progressive meaning having this AI. And I honestly can speak. I work at I don't work in a school. I work in the systems, and I don't think. And I hope nobody here that's my boss is here, but I don't think education knows what they're doing with AI. And
Probably not.
And I think it's a problem because we have other problems we haven't solved yet.
But I think what you're speaking to occurs in lots of industries, in lots of different spaces.
But this is the industry that creates the citizens that architects.
Sure.
So that's my issue.
Sure.
So I'm going to be 100 with you. I've always been biased about AI, and it's been like, it's scary to me what I see in the public school space to go from that and then AI and then what gaps can happen if it's not done well.
Sure. Sure. And I think those are some of the things that we were trying to speak to today. Yeah. For sure. So I'm going to move ahead to make sure that we have time for our panel, because there are many experts on our panel who can address some of these issues in much more detail than I can. Just to say, these are some things that we do at Wildfire, which I've talked about in terms of really helping organizations to navigate change. And I'm happy to talk with you about those later. But what I would like to do is turn it back over to Taz to introduce our panel. So thank you, everybody.